Okay, here's a fun question. What is your favorite ocean animal? I can go first. My favorite is a dolphin. Giovanna, do you want to share?
My favorite animal is the sea turtle.
A sea turtle? Nice. Allison?
My favorite animal is a fish.
A fish. Okay, nice.
I think Ariana and Zelda are very excited to share.
Okay.
My favorite is a fish. My favorite is stingray.
That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
Who else? Abel? Okay.
My favorite animal is a jellyfish.
Nice.
Wait, and the other question is, are penguins sea animals?
Yes. So sea animals are technically any animal that spends like 50% of its time. I actually don't know if it's 50% exactly, but a certain amount of its time in the ocean. And so there are some penguins that spend a lot of their time in the ocean. But most of those aren't the penguins we're used to thinking of. So like if they spend a lot of time walking across ice and land, they might not be considered a sea life or a sea animal. But other types of penguins that swim most of their time, that have different types of like blubber instead of feathers, those might be considered ocean life. It's a good question, Abel. Thanks for asking. I would also say my favorite ocean animal is probably a jellyfish because they're really cool. Or I just learned about something, it doesn't live in the oceans, but it's a water creature, and that's the arapaima, which is a gigantic fish. It's huge, like one of the world's largest fish. I just need to share that.
Okay, so what is a marine biologist and what do they do? I'm going to share a little bit about what a marine biologist is. They basically study ocean, like the oceans, we would call it oceanography, and they try to understand the life of a marine organism. So they would say if it was a jellyfish, they would try to understand how a jellyfish was living, what they eat, what their population is. They also study like their natural habitats, and they try to focus on the population's behaviors, like how that specific group is moving entirely, or what they're eating, or if there's less of them, or if they're growing. So marine biologists do that.
Yeah, I would add that sometimes marine biologists, what they study is how humans affect the oceans, right? We go and we swim in the oceans, or we have our water that comes off of our streets goes into the oceans, things like that. So sometimes a big part of a marine biologist's job can be, how is the ocean changing because we do things in the ocean, right? Because I think it's a bit silly. So what I'm going to suggest we do is we're going to put our marshmallows on the plate. You have at least 4 marshmallows. If you have more than that, that's great, but make sure you have at least 4. Aleutian, do you have a question? Oh, do you have 2? 2 is fine. Sorry, 2 is fine. I didn't realize you all only had 2. Aleutian, what's your question?
I cannot find one of those bags.
One of these ones?
The one of the bags that is on the side.
Okay, that's okay. If you can't find it, how about you just watch what we're doing and you can still answer questions, okay?
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, can everyone see the icing bag that I'm holding onto? Can everyone see that one part has kind of this triangle? Make sure that part's at the top. You want it at the top of your, like near your hand. So Allison, flip it upside down. There you go. So what you're going to do is up near the top right here, there's a little tear. Do you see how mine moves? Can you all see that? So you're going to tear as tiny as you can, because we don't want a big hole, we just want a tiny hole. So do you see how that worked for me? Let me try and do that. It's okay if you tear a big hole, but you gotta tear a hole in it so we can get the icing out. All right. So let's see. Okay, Ariana and Zelda look ready. Sophia, are you doing good? Thumbs up? Thumbs up. Awesome. Awesome. Allison's ready. So now what you can do is you can make kind of a little pile of icing off to the side. You don't need to squeeze it all, just a little bit at a time, because especially if you only have 2 marshmallows. Abel, do you have a question? Go for it.
I cannot get my marshmallows out, and it's about to break.
Can you hold up what you're working on? I can't see. Oh, that's okay if the plastic breaks. It's okay if the marshmallows fall apart too, but we do need them out of the bag if you can get them out. There you go. So once you have your marshmallows and your little pile of icing, Abel, did you get your icing open?
I'm trying to get it open.
Okay.
No, I'm trying to get the marshmallows out of the bag so they can't get out.
It's very sticky. All right. Great. So once you have marshmallows and icing, you're going to take your marshmallows and you're going to kind of roll them in icing. So they're going to get really sticky really fast. And then you're going to stand it up. Ooh, maybe. Stand it up. It's very sticky. Can everyone see my plate okay? Yeah, exactly like what Allison did. And then you're going to stand it up and you're going to stick the marshmallows together. So if you only have 2 marshmallows, keep them a little separate for right now. Well, actually, you can keep them stuck together. That's fine. We'll talk about so each of these marshmallows is technically a different coral polyp. So a coral polyp is the top part of the coral that has tentacles on it. So we're gonna make a coral polyp today. So now that we have our frosting covered marshmallows, was there another question? Sorry, Abel, do you have a question?
Yeah, but I don't know how to do the bag though.
So if you hold the bag up like this with the triangle part towards the top, there's a little tear and you can tear it off right there. And then it's just a tiny hole that's open for you to get the icing out. All right, does everyone else have icing covered marshmallows? Can you give me a thumbs up? Awesome. So now what you're going to do is you're gonna take your toothpick if you have one. If you don't have a toothpick, that's okay. And you're gonna poke a hole in the marshmallows. And now we're gonna take our licorice whips. So I would pull out just one for right now, and I'm gonna tear it into tinier pieces because it's pretty big compared to our marshmallows, right? And then in that hole you just made, you're gonna stick a licorice whip. And then another one. It looks a little silly, huh?
Maligo ka muna doon. Anong ginagawa mo dyan? Anong kinakain mo?
All right, how's that going? Oh, I see Sophia's getting toothpicks poked. So I would tear a small piece of the licorice whip. If you see how tiny mine is, right? I just made it that big for the tentacles because they're really long. Oh yeah, I like Allison's. That looks great. So once you have like one in there, try to get a second tentacle in there. It's okay if you can't because our marshmallows are tiny. But try to get a second one in there. And I'll repeat it with my other coral polyp. So, is there a question? Sorry. All right. So I can get 2 tentacles in mine. It's okay if you only get 1 in yours. It is kind of hard to do, huh? We have tiny marshmallows. I can also get this closer so y'all can see that I have just the tentacles sticking out of the marshmallows. Aleutian, I'm gonna mute you, but let me know if you have any other questions, okay? All right. Oh, Ariana and Zelda, that looks great. I see Sophia still working. That's awesome. Oh, Abel, great job. I see you poking holes in your marshmallows. Oh, is that icing, Ariana? Ha ha ha. So remember, I mean, it's okay. You're not in trouble or anything. But remember, the first rule of our experiments is we don't eat the science till after we make our observations. But ooh, Allison, that looks great. Okay, so once we have our little polyps covered in icing and with our tentacles, now here comes something interesting. So remember I told you that the coral reef has a ton of diversity, right? There's a ton of different animals and plants that live there, and they all work together. And coral is the most important part to it. And that's because coral lives on the rock, right? Lives on our limestone bedrock. And so it's the connection between the rock and the ocean. And because we build up from there, it has a bunch of opportunities to interact with the fish or even with little tiny microbes. And so I should have pointed this out in the slides, but in the tentacles and in the surrounding area of the corals and the coral polyps, we have something called zooxanthellae. Who wants to say that with me? Zooxanthellae. Go for it. You can unmute.
Zooxanthellae.
Zooxanthellae. Yeah, great job. Abel, do you have a question?
Yeah. What do we do with the white stuff? Not the marshmallows, the other ones.
The icing, you're gonna roll your marshmallows in the icing, and then you're gonna stick the licorice whips in there. The icing is like the exoskeleton that's on the outside of the corals. So remember I told you the coral produces a bunch of chemical reactions to help build up rock and other stuff? That's the other stuff. That's what the icing represents. So that zooxanthellae, that's why we have red and blue sprinkles. So you have two different marshmallows. One marshmallow is going to be red zooxanthellae, and the other marshmallow is going to be blue zooxanthellae. And that's because even though our coral polyps are stuck together, right? We put them together with that calcium carbonate, our icing, right? The microbes can be totally different. And so we want to show that. We want to show that you can have two totally different types of microbes on your coral, right? So I'm going to take my bag of red sprinkles and doing my best, only get it on one. Okay, maybe it's not going to stick. You can use more icing if you need to. But just kind of, oh no, my tentacles fell out. But just kind of stick the red sprinkles on one side and then the blue sprinkles on the other. This is a little difficult, y'all, but we're gonna do our best. And so now, if I hold these up to the camera, oh, okay, minus one tentacle. Do you all see that I have one marshmallow in red sprinkles and the other one in blue sprinkles? So that's exactly what happens with coral polyps. Corals grow and develop, and if two polyps are close enough to each other, they'll stick together. But just because they're close to one another doesn't mean that they provide the same help. They can support different animals, different zooxanthellae. So one could be red and one could be blue. So corals grow by starting on the rock, by building up an exoskeleton, our icing, by growing together, by forming tentacles, our licorice whips, and then they can support other communities like the zooxanthellae. Abel, what's your question?
I'm having trouble doing the experiment.
Are you having trouble getting the tentacles in?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a toothpick with you?
Yeah, I think I do. But I have a different type of toothpaste.
That is, as long as it's pointy on one side, it should work. So make a hole in your marshmallow if you can see what I'm doing. So poke a hole, and then as you're you can make a couple holes if you need to. And then what you can also do is if you need to you can stick the licorice whip in at the same time, or use your toothpick, if you can see what I'm doing with my hands, to kind of guide the licorice whip in. So like I'm poking a hole and kind of holding the licorice whip at the same time. It is hard. Like you saw, one of my tentacles fell out too. Oh, see, those ones just fell over. So it's okay if you can only get one in, but you should hopefully be able to get one tentacle in. All right. Oh, Sophia, those are great. That's a great coral polyp. Can I see people's coral polyps if they're ready? Oh, Giovanna, let me see. Oh, that's awesome. And Ariana and Zelda, that's so cool. Oh wait, Ariana and Zelda, can you show me it one more time? I want to get a picture. Awesome. That looks great. Thank you. Anyone else want to show me your coral polyps? Oh, Zora. That's awesome. So Ava, how you doing? Were you able to get the tentacles in?
I think so.
That looks great. Oh, that's why you're using a really, really big piece of licorice whip. I cut down my licorice whip to like this big. Do you see like maybe an inch or so, or a little bigger than an inch? That'll help. All right. So, just to review, how do coral grow? Corals start on a limestone bedrock. Oh, Allison, those are some great coral polyps. So we start on our limestone bedrock, and then we have our cake icing or our calcium carbonate exoskeleton, and that grows on the outside of our coral, right? On the outside of our marshmallows. And that helps the coral stick together and grow together. And then they make tentacles, our licorice whips. And then we can add in all the zooxanthellae, the red and blue sprinkles. So we can have different microbes, different animals living together because the coral helps. Any other questions on the experiment? Go for it, Ariana and Zelda. 1 second. Can you press the blue button to talk?
So I wonder why we're making it. Plus, I got a little bit trouble by doing it. We could do that in our space. With these tentacles, there was so hard to move a pulse, so I ate them.
So now, as long as the adults at home say it's okay, you can eat your coral polyps. But you have to make sure the adults at home say it's okay. But now we've made our observations. So I think Zelda asked why we made this, right? And the reason we made this week is because corals are really, really, really important to our oceans. Coral reefs house most of the life forms in our ocean, other than the very, very deep sea floor. And so we want to keep them safe and protected. And that zooxanthellae, our red and blue sprinkles, those are really important parts to all of our life. And so they help feed all of the fish and the other creatures you saw in the coral reef. And so something very scary is happening in our oceans right now, something called coral bleaching. So if you still have a coral polyp, if you were to like shake off all the sprinkles, right, it gets kind of boring. It's just plain white again. And eventually the tentacle will die and fall off. And now you just have a calcium carbonate marshmallow, right? A marshmallow covered in icing. And when that happens, that's something called coral bleaching. And so coral bleaching happens when all the zooxanthellae die in a coral. And when that happens, what ends up happening is the whole coral dies and the whole reef can die. And then the fish die, everything dies because there's no more food left. And this is happening because we're heating up the oceans or because other things are changing in our oceans, causing something called ocean acidification. And so it's
like a headquarters.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it, Abel. It's like a little hub, a headquarters where all of the life is. And so if the food starts to die out, then the other organisms die too.
Be here. It's so nice to meet you all. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Does it look good? Amazing. Okay, so again, my name is Maya, and today we're going to be talking about corals and coral reefs. So, does anyone remember what a coral is? What do you know about it? What did you learn? Abel, what do you want to share? Go for it.
That fishes will live in coral reef. Sometimes they would eat in it because they need hunger to survive.
Exactly, that's right, exactly it. Sometimes they start to look like dinner plates, like if you think about when you're eating dinner, very flat. Sometimes they look like tree branches. Sometimes they look like brains, they look like your head. Other times they look like castles. So let's look at some pictures. This one, what do you think this looks like? Yeah, what do you think it looks like? Go for it, Abel.
It's like roots, but made out of coral. That at last where fishes will eat or live there.
Totally.
Because it kind of looks like a maze. You could get lost inside of the grooves if you were to shrink yourself down really small and go walking. Awesome. And so I'm talking a lot about their shapes. Why do you think their shapes are important?
Oh, William, you have your hand up right away as soon as you saw it pop up on the screen.
Maybe lances capture more food for the coral. The big big ones have way more defense, I think, and I think that's it.
Wow, that's awesome. And Adifa, what do you think? Why do you think it's important?
I think it's important because some of the shapes in it can defend each other, and it can maybe protect itself from danger. So this is why.
I like that idea too, totally. And those are both definitely true. Corals are so amazing and they do so many different things. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Oops. Stop sharing my screen. Okay, now you see me. So I have some corals here with me right now. I have a blue coral and I have a red coral. So they're a little bit different. Okay, and I'm gonna dip them in different temperatures of water. I'm gonna dip them in their normal water temperature, and we're gonna take a look and observe to see what happens to the corals. And then I'm going to dip them into warm water. So this is similar to when you think about the summer versus the winter time. If you ever go swimming in the ocean, in the winter it's so cold, and it's not fun for me. But then in the summertime, it's kind of bathy. And so corals oftentimes like the winter temperatures more than the summer temperatures. They might get stressed out because of the change in temperature. Okay, so are you ready? Here's my cold water. Here's the blue coral. Ready? I'm gonna dip it and tell me what changes, if anything. What do you see?
Who wants to tell us their observations? Oh, Juan, what do you say? What changed, if anything?
What changed is that the coral now has kind of its tentacles open at the same time, but not, and it's kind of recovering.
You know, to be fair, we didn't see the coral tentacles and polyps earlier, but I think they might be the same. But I like your observations. You're thinking really hard about what might change. That's really good. Anyone else's observations? Adifa, what do you say?
When she put the water, when the top part, it got a little bit lighter. There's a little bit of light blue lines on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think that might be a trick of the light, but I like what you're thinking. You're trying to figure out all the different things. Anyone else have? Okay, well, I see 3 people with hands up. We'll go for it. Sophia had her hand up first because it was right after Adifa.
The holes became bigger.
Ooh. All right. So what changed, Miss Maya? I'll ask you.
It was a trick question. Nothing changed. And it's easier for me to see because I'm holding it this close to my face. And I can see that it looks the exact same from before and after. Let's do it with this type of coral. Same in the cold water. Ready? Okay, take a look at it. So everyone sees it. Dipping it. What do you see now? Is there any change?
Mila, what do you say?
It looks a little bit more red.
Oh, it looks a little more red. Our final trial. Red coral is going in the water. What happened to it? Oh, this one likes it whether it's warm or cold. It says no big deal. I like them all. This one says I hate it when it's hot outside. I hate the summertime. I hate it. I hate it. And so what this means though is when you think about thermal tolerance. Thermal means heat. Tolerance means the ability to experience different levels of heat. So this type of coral is more thermally tolerant than this one.